When you're going about progressing in skateboarding, it's important not to forget that there's always a default you can resort to. And so if you're having a hard time as you think about what tricks you want to learn next, just allow the default to be to revisit the fundamentals. Now, the fundamentals can look differently if you're skating a ledge, flat ground, ramps, or even a flat bar, basically a different obstacle. There's always room for growth when it comes to improving on the base of your skating, which is something as simple as, rolling, pushing hard, popping, and then you can even apply that same approach to your switch stance, your nollie stance, and your fakie stance. Just always keep in mind that as you progress with your tricks, whether they're just in a set of stairs, whether they're on a rail or at some street spots, understand you can always warm up, you can always cool down, or just have your main session focused on the fundamentals. So just because an ollie is very easy, it doesn't mean you can't make it a bit more difficult and challenge yourself with that same trick. There's always room for improvement, even in the tricks that you seem to have very comfortably. So for instance, I might do kickflips 10 out of 10 tries on flat ground, but will I do them 10 out of 10 tries when I go, let's say, 5 or 10 miles per hour on the board? I might have 180s very comfortably, but will that 180 feel just as comfortable if I do it on a pyramid or do it on a bank? For these reasons, there's always room for improvement with our most fundamental tricks. And so if you find yourself not knowing what to do when you get to the skate park, or when you may be trying a new trick but it's not going well and you feel like you're forcing it, then you can always revisit a fundamental that you might be needing to refine so that it can assist you in landing the trick you might want. So for example, if you're finding it difficult to 50-50 a fun box or a ledge, you might want to ask yourself, what is stopping you from a fundamental approach? Is it being able to go at the obstacle in a parallel manner? So are you lacking some stability? Is it being able to snap your board comfortably in a way where you're not so tense, but more in a way where you feel a bit more fluid and you have minimal tension, so that you're landing and snapping in an engaged way? Or is it simply not understanding how to apply stabilizing yourself or centering yourself over the lead foot? And so if you're having trouble with any of those concepts and how to apply them, then you might want to think about how you can apply them with, I guess, a step back. So a step back of 15 the ledge, it might be ollieing onto the ledge. Let's just say you're skating this obstacle over here, the little manual pad. If I go to it and I start to try to 50 the side of it, let's imagine like that flat bar isn't there, right? If I go to 50 the side of it, but I'm having trouble landing it for whatever reason, then I might want to just think about being able to ollie on in a fluid manner, right? So that I can fine-tune that ability, fine-tune applying those concepts, and allow myself to progress in a fundamental level. So when I go and try that 50-50, I'm in a much more suitable position to actually execute that trick. Otherwise, we might get stuck trying to force our progression instead of just taking a step back and allowing the opportunity to refine those lessons that we've already learned with another trick, maybe just on flat ground. You can always progress in any way you want, any direction. It's important that you have a default of what to revisit, because when you get stuck, you have something that's reliable and that has helped you refine your tricks in the past. Set yourself up for success instead of getting stuck in analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis and just frustrating yourself, getting more tense, getting more fatigued, and not being able to progress in a efficient manner. The best case scenario to progress in is where you're not so tense, you don't feel fatigued, and you're able to absorb everything you're learning as you practice or as you learn a new trick. Because many times and this has happened to me in the past, is I land a trick once and I can't land it for years to come. And that is because when I landed it the first time, I was in such a fight or flight mode that I wasn't really able to retain any of those concepts I was applying, because I was just worried about, you know, surviving that trick itself. For those reasons, you want to make sure you're able to take a step back to something that's a bit more reliable, like the fundamentals, so that you don't stop skating, you don't get discouraged, but instead you understand it's just a part of the process. Instead of getting so fixated on the goal and why you can't reach it, take a step back and think about how you can improve upon your process to obtain that goal. As you go about defaulting to the fundamentals, it's going to be a natural process where you feel the improvement. So you're going to feel a bit more lighter on your feet. You're going to feel like things are a bit more intuitive, and you're going to feel a bit more confident as a result of building that control with those fundamental tricks. It's an intuitive process, and only you will truly know if you're putting in the effort to actually build that control, build that light feeling, and build upon those concepts so that you can propel yourself forward to progressing in any of the tricks you want to learn. The important thing to think about is how are you going to apply it to your own process, because everyone's process looks different. There isn't necessarily a linear path, and just because the suggestion to default to the fundamentals is there, it doesn't mean it's going to stop you or it's going to have you going in a linear path. It's just going to aid you in whatever path you choose to progress in. This means getting comfortable, you know, pushing being in your regular stance. You know, let's say you do a 180, you're very comfortable landing in your switch stance. Let's say that when you ollie, you land slightly on your nose. If you covered your grounds to in an ollie stance, then you're a bit more comfortable and you don't get shooken off or feel like you need to get off your board. Same thing if you do a 180 and you land more in a fakie stance, or you just want to do a fakie trick after that 180. It's important that you don't get thrown off and just kind of trip over your board, because that's so new to you. But instead, you want to make sure you are giving yourself that time to refine your fundamentals. That way, when you're exposed to those situations, you're set up in a much better position to execute. One big obstacle I came across when I was learning, let's say like nollie backside flips, was not feeling comfortable landing in this position where I'm opened up in a switch stance. Because whenever I would land the nollie backside flips, I would land here where my back is facing the direction I'm going. Or as I practiced switch skating and got super comfortable landing my switch stance in an opened up position, where I was intuitively more confident when I approach this trick on flat ground, where when I land, I know where I need to be. So in other words, I am here, and then I'm opening up to you guys. I can take this approach with this trick specifically because I got comfortable at a simple switch ollie, or even fakie, where I land here. It's not revisiting the fundamentals so that you can approach skateboarding with a linear sense of progression, but more so that it can aid you in whatever path of progression you choose for yourself. I don't care if you're a manual skater, stair skater, rail skater, you can always take this concept of going back to the fundamentals with whatever obstacle you're skating. So if you're skating this rail, and you want to do so badly, let's say a crook, but a board slide feels kind of uncomfortable, and you're like this, or you're like this, or when you try the board slide, you land heavy. Think about how you can skate this rail where you can feel a bit lighter on your board, where you can go faster, slower, and then not change the result of you landing, before you try to force learning a trick like a crook, where it's a bit more difficult in a technical sense. There are times where some skaters have an easier time crooking a rail compared to a board slide, but most times they're not understanding that The reason why one is easier is because they're compensating, or they're restricted in a way. And so because they're restricted and they don't feel comfortable getting on all the way, they might just want to, you know, halfway commit, and they think halfway committing is trying to crook. So instead of forcing that crook, because that's what feels comfortable, get yourself feeling comfortable on a board slide. Maybe it's not even on this rail. Take a bit more steps back, go to a flat bar so much smaller. As you experience this adversity with, oh my God, I want to try a trick, but it's, you know, something stopping you. It might be the fear, it might be the speed, it might be, you know, whatever it might be. Just understand you can always take a few steps back and default to the fundamentals of that specific approach. So for example, the fundamentals to this approach would be going back to a regular flat bar one. Fundamentals to, you know, let's say an ollie down a big set of stairs is maybe just practice the ollie off of a smaller ledge, but get a bit more speed. That way you understand it's not the speed that's stopping you, and instead you may just be needing to adapt yourself to the height, or just the realization that it is a bigger set of stairs. And so you find something that resembles it a bit more and start there. So I'm starting here. Am I able to apply these concepts like staying over that lead foot, feeling engaged, opening up to the direction I'm going, and how comfortable do I feel? Or by answering those questions, you understand if you're set for the obstacle you might be wanting to try, you know, after that. So it may not even be the stairs after this. You might have to go to a different park or a different obstacle where it resembles it a bit more. No matter what position you find yourself in, you always have something to resort to. And that's such an important concept to take away with you, because even if you feel like there's nothing to learn or you feel stuck, you understand there's always something to go back to, so that you can slowly get yourself back to feeling inspired, feeling motivated, and maybe even sparking a new path of progression, right? There's been many times where, you know, I feel like I can't progress anyway, and all I start doing is 180s and exploring how I can make that a bit more comfortable. And before you know it, I'm trying back 180, you know, to Manny, or back 180 fakie Manny. For one, it shows you how skateboarding is so abundant, and it also shows you how much more potential for progress or for growth you have on the skateboard, regardless of how you might feel in your journey of skateboarding. If this was helpful to you, we are going to be talking about these concepts so much more on lives. You want to check out the memberships. I have 3 tiers. So far, we got 3 members. Every tier is different. Number 2 earns itself some shout outs. So shout out Loyo Tanji and Coquero. Definitely gonna be posting so much more. Appreciate all the comments. If you're someone who's interested in coaching or lessons, look me up on Instagram at profe.carlos, profe.carlos, and we can talk about what that might look like for you. Lives is a great place for members only to experience what it means to be coached, and also get some questions answered a bit more in a bit more timely manner compared to the comment section. So check those things out. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Let me do a double tray or what?
Wait, but the thumbnail.